By the right of the Council, by the will of the Force. Welcome back into another episode of the Galaxy Famous, Halcyon approved Jedi Talk Podcast. Oh, it's a good one today because you are following us at Jedi Talk Podcast on Instagram. YouTube.com/Jedi Talk. I'm just going to get right to it because y'all ain't hitting download to listen to my ginger ass today. I am Atomica here on the High Council, and joining me on the regular council, he drove 47 hours here, but he's drinking already. Brad Hughes. Brad, how the fuck are you tonight?
I'm exhausted. Woo! I've been in the car for probably 36 of my last 48 hours. Let's go.
That's insane. Let's go. He's on.
Let's go. I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Directly across from me, he's cried just as much as Brad's been driving. Evan T. Boucher, the mayor of the Halcyon. Evan, how the fuck are you tonight, my guy?
Adiga and good journey. I have definitely been crying just as much, but for different reasons than Brad was driving, is all I'm going to say. Yeah, maybe I'm crying just because I'm so low, you know? That's the thing.
There you go. Yeah, we're getting things situated up, but...
The audience isn't crying about it.
No, they are not, but we've been teasing forever, and he is here. He is in person. The fantastic and the former Galactic Starcruiser performer, Galaxy Starcruiser performer, Preston Ellis. Preston, how the fuck are you tonight?
So good. Got a drink in my hand, ready to go. Let's do this, boys.
I'm excited for this. This is going to be a good old time.
Yes, it is.
The drink in the hand suits you, but as I messaged you on Instagram, the beard suits you.
Go on.
Yeah, tell us about the beard. Where did that come from?
Three compliments.
Start with the beard, yeah.
Well, I'm not a space fascist anymore, so I don't have to be clean shaven.
Once a space fascist, always a space fascist.
And my two new jobs kind of promote beard wearing. So
that's
it
a
works out
tease.
nicely.
That's a tease. Can you tell us anything about that?
Sure. I'm opening Epic Universe.
Let's go.
In the How to Train Your Dragon Untrainable show, and I dabble at Pirates Dinner Theater probably about 2 nights a week.
Yeah,
very fun. I've always wanted to do that. That's the one off I drive?
Yeah, it's a good time.
I want to go to that so bad. I have contemplated doing it a bunch of times. I'll have to go next time you're there.
If you want a job, let me know. Your build, that beard.
I have no acting chops, though.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Hey.
We'll figure something
Well, I don't
Not
have
yet.
that build, but I do have a beard. So
All right, you're in.
all right.
That was easy.
We'll work for
Sign me
whiskey.
up.
I know pirates and redheads are a iffy thing lately, so at least 10 years ago.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work, all right.
Somebody still wants the redhead. Somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Somebody screams it all the time. Evan does.
Yep.
Because it's the only ride he'll go on at Magic Kingdom anymore.
It's the only one left.
So you've been
For
doing
now.
well?
Yeah, great.
Life obviously treating you okay over things are epic, obviously.
Yeah, everybody's great, really supportive. Everybody's really excited. It's a great team, great people, talented people, supportive. That's really the dream.
Yeah, we've been hearing nothing but, I'm not going to say epic because that would be awful, Brad. That'd be too cliche.
It'd be very cliche.
For me to say things have been epic, but things have been really monumental, let's say. I've been hearing monumental things
Nice.
about Epic Universe.
That's
so
going to be their next
we're
part,
excited.
the monumental universe.
I'm going, I've got our tickets. Like, hey, Universal, can you put them on our APs, please?
Did you see the thing that they accidentally added it after 5 like they do for the Express
Oh,
Pass for the
they
top
did,
tier
yeah.
one?
I did see that, so
I
yeah.
think it's coming, dude.
Yeah.
Which is why I haven't bought tickets yet because
Yeah.
it hasn't sold out for any time I want to go.
Well, I'll be there 5 days after it opens, so I'll
Hell
be
yeah.
sure to check out the How I Train Your Dragon area.
What's your hype level for this?
You know, Harry Potter and Super Nintendo World when they first announced it, but now that I'm hearing everything, it's Dark Universe. It's like I want to see Darkmoor so bad.
I can't wait.
And also, and I'm not just saying this to kiss his ass, but the How I Train Your Dragon area with Lily growing up, that's going to be awesome.
Have you seen the movies?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love those movies.
Love those movies.
Love them.
It's one of the best franchises that Universal has, in my opinion. I'm so glad they're doing a land based around it. It's such a cool idea. The land looks huge. I can't wait to actually get in there.
The
and see
piece of
it.
land that they purchased for Epic Universe is bigger than the rest of their properties combined.
Holy
wow.
shit!
I did
didn't
not
know
know
that.
that.
They haven't developed all of it yet. They're still expanding. They already have
Smart,
plans
smart.
in motion.
Woo-wee.
So it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Eventually, it's going to be massive.
Can't wait, dude. Oh my god, that is so exciting.
That's so fucking cool. Well, nobody wants to hear about Epic Universe because they want to hear about Star Wars. This is a Star Wars Jedi Talk.
Well, it was cool to
a
kind
Star
of
Wars
get the
podcast.
future for Preston Ellis right there, because that always comes up usually at the end. So, what is the past of Preston Ellis?
Ooh, yeah.
What got you started with
Oh, you guys don't care about that.
No,
Yes,
we
we
do.
do.
We do.
Yes, we
very
do.
much.
Yes, we do.
So is this an origin story?
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
Yeah. However, if you want to
Absolutely.
go back to day one you were born, I don't care.
I don't know how deep you want to go into this, how introspective.
You go as deep as you want to go.
Long story short,
I'll do
that's
that
what
to
someone's
and I'll
mom
do
is.
that- I'll do that to
uh-oh,
Carl's mom.
that's
Yep.
going in the report. HR, are you listening?
Tom, are you listening?
I'm not HR. Fuck that. Yeah, I approve.
Not since the accident. Music theater background, Elon University, went to New York for 10 years, did some Broadway shows, some Law & Order, some tours, some cruise ships, met my wife. We wanted to have kids, and neither one of us wanted to do that in New York. And she's from Florida, so we came down to Florida.
Hey.
Had some buddies who were working at Finding Nemo, so I got a job at Finding Nemo.
Oh, I did not know that.
Hoop-de-doo, Jedi, Trials of the Temple, and
What
Yeah,
years
we
what
have
years
somebody
were
on
you-
Reddit who said, I used to work with Preston at Trials of the Jedi.
he might
Yeah.
have. I was definitely there for like 5 years before the pandemic.
When did you work at Hoop-de-doo?
2019 through the beginning of 2020, I think I was there the day before the world ended. We checked into the hospital that night. I was supposed to work that night. And when the pandemic started, that's when we gave birth to our daughter.
Holy
I shouldn't say
shit.
we,
Wow.
but I was there for moral support.
You were there, yeah.
You took the brunt of that, Preston. We understand that here
We
on
know
Jedi
that's
Talk
hard for men.
podcast. Yes,
I know. I
very
have to
hard.
sleep
Men
on
have
the
it the hardest
couch,
during pregnancy.
and those couches are not built for people of our size.
They are not.
No.
They are not.
No.
Our stature. I was in a chair. Could you believe that?
So
God.
rude.
How dare they?
So rude.
She's just sitting there in the hospital bed, just
Yeah.
laying there.
Yeah,
I asked to
I
talk
had
to the
come
manager.
on.
Yeah, I had to watch Ahsoka season 3 in the hospital, or episode 3. Sorry.
I was like, huh?
That's insane that she put you through that.
Yeah. So obviously you yeah. Thank you. Somebody finally understands. So you got to this point. How about after that? I mean, this was all before the pandemic, right?
So
you
the
just kind of went
pandemic-
home, yeah.
I mean, like many of us, I would assume the pandemic destroyed my family. I lost my job. I was at Bleacher Report as an NBA reporter.
Oh,
I
there
did
were
not know
massive
that.
Shit.
layoffs. Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. Interviewed
That's
Anthony
crazy.
Davis, Drew Holiday, LeBron, Mike Conley. I used to do on-site reporting, but I was
Whoa.
also at Disney, so I lost both of those jobs. For about 7 months, we were collecting like everybody else. Then I was going door to door selling solar panels. Then I got a remote job, which was great, and did a lot of voiceover work. And eventually, the first thing that brought us all back, 18 months from my last day at Hoop-de-doo, was the Galactic Starcruiser.
Wow. Dang.
Wild.
Yeah.
Hoop-de-doo is my favorite thing at Disney.
It's a blast. It's a good
It's
time.
so much fun. You've done it before, yeah?
No, I still haven't.
You still have never done it?
I tell you every time you bring this up on the
So
podcast.
much dinner theater to explore.
Same.
Yeah.
I say the same. Like, no, because I've
You've
always
still never
wanted
done
to.
it too?
I've always wanted
Bro,
to, but
it
now
is-
I don't want to because I
could-
don't want to support anything. I'm done with. Like, I'm tired of it.
I'm so surprised. But you like to support the good things.
I'm kind of giving up on all of it. It's
All
like
right.
I don't even have.
Don't go down that next.
Right
Not
now-
in this
Left this
episode.
body.
Right now, I currently don't even have park tickets at all. I haven't been to a park in like a month because I don't have tickets and I just don't really care.
Yeah.
All right.
Crazy.
Oh, so you were at Hoop-de-doo. And then the Starcruiser brought you back, obviously.
Yep.
So what was that process all about? Not just it's insane to think that you're coming back from. Nobody in our lifetime experience what the pandemic was like. So you're coming back from literally, and I hate saying this, unprecedented times, but you were. And you're coming back into entertainment, and people were craving for it.
Yeah.
What was that all like, prepping for the cruiser?
You know, I've been giving this a lot of thought because I listen to Adam and Jason on here, and they're so gracious, and they spoke so wonderfully and colorfully about everything. And I was like, God, these guys are really holding back from the truth. Because when we walked in there, it was a chaotic mess. I had done the original Saja workshop in 2019 when they did a couple of secret scenes in the Contemporary Ballroom. They did a finale there. They did the first lightsaber training pod there. And I did probably about 50 shows by myself with this whole creative team. They would ferry in like 20 guests per show. And after each show, they would sit everybody down at a long table and they'd ask them a series of questions.
Who are these people and why was I not asked these questions?
Right?
So
If you were one of these people who got asked a question, hit us up on Jedi Talk Instagram.
Yeah, there you go.
I
At
wanna know what
Jedi
the
Talk
questions
Podcast on Instagram.
So we probably went through like 50 different scripts. Sometimes 10 minutes before showing, they'd be like, the CEO of XYZ is here, so we're going to change the last page. And,
my God.
And
Wow.
we did it, and it was a blast. Then fast forward, whatever it was, 2 years later, and I get there for the first day of rehearsal, and all of those people that were involved are gone. And they're starting with the first script, and I'm like, oh my God, we workshopped and brainstormed through 50 different audiences with these scripts, and now we're back at square one.
Wow.
And I'm watching the workshop cast perform the scene, and our director comes into the room, and I was like, that was great, but what about round 3? And she goes, what? And I go, round 3. They didn't perform round 3. And she's like, there is no round 3. What are you talking about? I have all the information. And all of a sudden, like, the room just erupts. And I'm sitting there like, I know there's a round 3. So sure enough, the next day they bring in script 2 that has a round 3. And that was just kind of like the whole 6-month rehearsal process was just scripts being torn up, reinvented, people wanting input in, and just like taking so much time up. Eventually, of course, you know, you get to a good place, but there was so much that went into it, so much chaos, misunderstandings, confusion, and you could see the stress at every level. It wasn't just us. It bled from the top all the way down, and I think that was reflective. And when you see the show opening, how many people were no longer with the project, not just on our level, but on every level.
What was like one of the bigger changes that from the script, from like when you... We can edit this out if we need to.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, one thing that you probably remember is there were originally 4 rounds, and the third round was the special student, where you identify probably a young person, and you let them come in front of the remote and see the sparks, and this is an opportunity for everybody else in the room. This is something we worked really hard at the Contemporary because we wanted everybody to succeed.
Right.
We don't want to make it too obvious because then you don't feel like you're special, but we don't want anybody to walk out of there thinking that they've failed. And so that third round was a great opportunity for everybody to kind of get a gist of what was happening. And if you are the special person and it doesn't resonate for you, then when you get to round 4, that's an opportunity for everybody around you to be like, oh yeah, there's sparks in the wall.
Yeah.
But then as we went along, we got rid of round 3, and it just went straight into the final round where everybody's seeing the sparkles for the first time. And as a Saja, that was very challenging, because nobody really has an opportunity to communicate with each other about what they're seeing. So you have to go up to every student individually and kind of coax them through in a very minimal amount of time.
While lightsabers are being swung around.
Yes, while
like,
there's a lot of noise, and they finally got their opportunity to hold the lightsaber again, and some of them are, you know, being video recorded or taking photos, or they got their kid with you. So there's all kind of chaos happening in the room, and you're having to navigate that for 4 different people at a time, trying to make sure that everybody succeeds.
Man.
Holy
So like
crap.
the evolution of that is kind of like, in my opinion, I mean, you'll know way better than us, but the Saja kind of had their own way of impromptu doing it then. Because I've seen videos, and it happened in some of the pods I was in, where they kind of, in a good way, of course, like singled out a person to give them that moment. It kind of happened, right?
Everybody, because of, I just got turned up. It sounds so resonant.
You did, yes.
Because of the chaos that ensued in those first 6 months, I remember specifically we had a rehearsal with the Saja where we each did the opening monologue. And there were probably 18 Saja in the room. And every single Saja did a different opening monologue because we all just were pretty much self-directed through that process. There weren't enough eyes to watch us and to offer us input. So everybody just kind of made it work in their own way, which was great for the guests because it was completely individualized. Whoever your Saja is, you're getting a different show than you would if you were with somebody else.
But that's really bad planning.
Right.
It was.
It worked out, but...
It was. I think everybody was so passionate and everybody was so dedicated. Nobody was phoning it in like, you know what, we're just going to go out there and we're going to do our best. Everybody did the homework.
The people. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody between every scene was trying to navigate, make new discoveries, remember names, remember stories, make it feel personalized. And so it was a lot of effort on the ground to make everything work. I mean, there were instances where somebody would give you a script and they would say, tomorrow we're doing this new 25-page script. Do your best. You don't have to be off book. We don't expect you to. How could you be? But we want this in and we want it in tomorrow. And
wow. For a hot dog and a handshake an hour.
You don't have to do it, but you have to.
Oh, no, you have to do it. You just don't
and-
have to do it the way that it's written on the page because that's difficult for a lot of people to do.
It's so crazy. Oh my God.
Now, like, how much wiggle room to compare it to something that people might understand a little more, especially that those who haven't done the Starcruiser? Like, how much wiggle room did you have in, like, the Trials of the Temple, like, doing that performance?
Oh, no. That's you got to be off book for that. And they did give you ample time. I think it was like 3 weeks of rehearsal. So there was nobody who didn't know their lines by the end of that process.
Okay.
And also there's a lot of cues that have to happen in the booth, whereas when you're a Saja, the cues are reliant on you. You're pushing forward the show. So the only person who's going to get you in trouble is yourself.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
None at all.
it's a completely different beast, a completely different animal, and a lot of it, like I said, is like self-directed, self-navigated. You are in charge of your own journey.
That is insane.
You're in
as
charge
a
of your
guest
good
and
journey.
as the performer, basically. But man, and like I know when I used to work there too, I thankfully got to run into you a few times, like in the weight room and whatnot. And I know like you kind of talked about these kind of stories behind the scenes, but like it's you're saying way more now than you even did then.
I don't know why everybody's so afraid to talk about it now. Because
they're afraid to get a 4-hour YouTube made.
And I did watch
We're
that
not afraid of you.
YouTube, and everybody was very upset about it for a lot of reasons. But I do remember at that beginning, because I did a guest day, and I remember my data pad didn't work. And when your data pad doesn't work,
That was my whole first experience.
Yeah,
it didn't
that
work at all.
and
Thank God yours did.
Yeah.
and she had terrible weather on her excursion, so she didn't get to participate in a lot of the activities she wanted. So I get it.
Sure.
I get it.
Yeah, yeah. But that's okay. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are kind of scared to talk. We had an episode we had to take down that's out there on the Dark Hollow Net almost 2 years ago because we were talking about it. So it's
And I anticipate this happening with this.
No, it won't. It won't. It definitely won't. There's just it's such a special time for what everybody who worked so hard into the Star Cruiser. It's such a special thing for everybody, obviously, with Halcyon, with just the amount of people that show up on May 4th, and the thing that Evan and I are part of, the Halcyon Legacy continues, throwing LARP events on Hollywood Studios. Us alongside with Aaron, Joe, Rachel, Brian.
Megan,
Betsy. Yeah, I'm making sure I'm not missing anybody here.
Yeah.
Brad every now and again.
Mia, right?
Yeah,
Show up sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
We'll
And
call
then
him every now and
Like,
again,
what's
Brad.
up, everybody? I'm gonna grab a blue milk while I watch you guys.
yeah,
do
there you go.
this.
And by the way, I just want to plug it now since we got a lot of ears on this. www.halcyonlegacycontinues.com. We have very, very limited spots left for our next May 3rd event at Hollywood Studios.
Check now, because if you don't, it'll be gone. And
That's right.
And you'll miss it, and you'll regret it.
That's right. So it's like all this hard work that you're talking about, and the script rip-ups, and the do this and to do that, chilling in the contemporary, and then coming back, like all that stuff, like means so much to people. And to your point, it's just like, why are people scared to talk about it? I think we need to hear. It's I get it. It's protected. It's Disney's and whatever. But it's like, it's not there anymore. So it's just like, let's celebrate it
I think
in
it
different
makes it
ways.
more powerful because the relationship between the guest who's experiencing this for the first time, something that's never been performed before, you're seeing that exact same passion coming from the performer on the other side who want to give you that experience because it means just as much to us that you walk away feeling fulfilled.
Right.
So if anything, I think these kind of stories enhance just how hard everybody worked on this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like I said, when I would run into you backstage and stuff, and you just one of the times you thanked me for our interview with Adam, and I'm like, dude, I just listened to an awesome dude
I've listened
talk.
to that podcast with Adam twice. I haven't spoken to him in a while, obviously, but during my time in the Star Cruiser, I really thought of him as a mentor, as a friend, as a confidant, as a hero. And I don't just mean on stage. Backstage, everybody was afraid. We were coming straight out of the pandemic. Nobody wanted to lose their job, and people were losing their jobs left and right on every level. And so there was fear. It was palpable. And he was somebody who was so confident, so well-spoken. Every time that he stood up, people listened. Not only did people listen, but people on every level were swayed by him because he is so articulate. He is so thoughtful.
Yeah.
You can feel the caring come from him. And then layer on top of that, him as a performer, just blown away. Every time I shared a scene with him, all I could do was compliment him. That's the only thing that could exit me because I am just so impressed. We called him the beautiful mind because you could just watch him work, and he never reiterated the same scene twice. It was always new and always original. He was just incredible.
Yeah. So that's why I was blown away when you thanked me, but it's because he was brave enough and not afraid to come out and talk about it at the time. You were really thanking him, not me, because we were just three idiots talking to a beautiful mind.
Well, you guys gave him the platform, and
that's true.
I think when there's somebody, and I'm not going to speak for him because I haven't spoken for him in a long time, but sometimes you need this platform to find peace and solace with everything that you've given, and then it's taken away from you, and you no longer have that outlet, that medium, and so this is your opportunity to kind of find some kind of closure, or at least open up about it and talk about things that most people don't understand unless you've lived it.
So when we had Adam on, that was a week or so after the announced closure. Yeah. So it was the timing was almost impeccable. It was just like this.
It was the
just
perfect
like Preston
storm.
said, it was this therapeutic conversation. And what you mean, it's great to hear that you had that experience with Adam because I could totally see that beautiful mind thing.
Yeah.
Just sitting with him, for the hour and a half we did that day or whatever, and just the one time our first cruise, the one Brad and I did together, he was our Croy. So
same.
just insane. Yeah, just
And
insane.
I listened to the Jason podcast too, and he was one of the most fun performers that I got to work with because there was nothing I could think of the most insane thing, and it would not throw him. If anything, he would embrace it and he would run with it. There were so many times I tried to just get him,
tried to break him.
And I could see him crack a smile. I could see him chuckle. But then we would go forward, and afterwards he would never come up and, hey, man, were you trying to jump scare me there? What was that? No, he loved it. It was always in the right spirit. It was never to make him look bad.
Right. Sure.
It was always just to challenge him intellectually, and he always responded so well.
Yeah.
If this were Brett and I'd be trying to make him look bad. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, we do that to each other. 100%.
When you're a lunatic like me, I've watched hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of YouTube videos of the Starcruiser, and I've seen moments where like one actor tried to get the other actor to break, like in a good way though. They're doing it with each other, trying to push the scene further. So I've seen those moments.
I'll give you just one instant. It was my last cruise, and there's this secret meeting that he would happen, and as Croy, I would go over, and I would see him, and I try to interrupt the meeting and see what they're talking about. And he always had this thing, this is a Gaia fan club meeting. So it was the last cruise. I was like, I'm going to have some fun. And you get a lot of gifts from guests and passengers and visitors, and I'd gotten a lot of Gaia trading cards. So I just had that on my person, and I said, this is a Gaia fan club meeting, and I said, will this get me access?
So what is your personal favorite Gaia song?
This is...
I'm not playing it. We won't get monetized on YouTube.
No, yeah.
So.
It's okay. We can sing it together collectively as
I'm
one.
trying to think of, I've already dropped two names, but having the opportunity at the end of the show when the Saja are out there dancing and Chewie's out there, that was one of my favorite moments of the show because... Number one, Vinny and I have been such good friends for 10 years. And two, we were just a couple of knuckleheads running around the ship. So I look at my schedule and I'm like, wait, I'm off stage from 6:15 to 7 o'clock and you're on stage? And then you're off stage from 7 to 7? No, we're just going to be on stage the whole day.
Dude,
and
I love it.
so I would chase him around
Nice.
in that scene. So I have so many great memories of that scene, of dancing with Wani, of dancing with the other Saja, of getting the guests involved. And that was really one of the more special moments. Plus, I have such a great memory of the first time that we all heard the music.
Dang, yeah.
But all the songs were incredible. And I guess it depends on where you sit. If you're a Saja, but if you're Lieutenant Croy, probably Poverty of Love because it speaks to you in a completely different way than it would to a Saja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah.
The correct answer is Heinenea. Yeah, I just want to let everybody else
It's
know.
so hard. I'll probably agree.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. So you were kind of talking about interactions. Obviously Saja Grace and Lieutenant Croy. Is either one of those or is both that you have another character you had the most fun with interacting? I mean, I know you said Jason. You're trying to break him, or with Wraith, but maybe just in general, not like a performer. Like, man, I really love talking to Sammy.
Croy was really, really challenging because it feels like everybody on the ship is against you. Not just the guests, sometimes even, other cast members, other characters. Just a word from one of them, like, Croy's a jerk. That emboldens and inflames everybody who hears it and brings more animosity to them as they encounter you. So when you did have those, I want to turn this around, when you do have those moments when you meet a Sammy, and I'll try not to drop too many names, but some of these guys who are there to lift you up and make you look good, and their improv is on point. It's almost like water in the middle of a desert when you have that person that loves you and supports you, and they're here for you, and you've got your guests, like in Coaxium Deal Goes South, basically when Wraith is trying to hide the coaxium from Lieutenant Croy, and everybody is just foaming at the mouth at that point because Gaia's out there. You've interrupted the show. They're trying to protect Wraith. They're trying to protect the coaxium. They're trying to protect Lenka. They're trying to protect the Saja, and everybody in the room is against you. So when you do have those people who are looking out for you, those Sammys, those Wraith Coles, who even though they're actively working against you in the show, as humans, they're extending that arm to you. That's some of the best feelings that you'll get on stage in that show. Like, Sammy was such a knucklehead in that scene when he's coming up with reasons why he needs to go to the cargo hold to check things, and he's goofing off with the stormtroopers. But Jason was always a highlight too. He was so fun.
I remember kind of seeing that evolution of how those kind of moments progressed because I was a character attendant for a while and I never got to work on the ship. But I remember how my first voyage, like when Sammy would get arrested after singing First Order's the Worst Order, it was a little bit more like the troopers just kind of took him down to the brig, and the attendants were a pretty respectable distance away. But by the time my second and third cruise rolled around, I could see that they had learned from guests reacting to their best friend Sammy being locked in prison, that they would like jump on the troopers and whatnot. So,
that scene can go completely differently based on how a performer like Sandro plays it.
Yeah. Well, Sandro too, and Sammy. Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, Sandro, Sammy, anybody. Based on how they interact in that scene, that informs and instructs the guests on board the ship on how they should treat you.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of bad experiences back to Coaxium Deal Go South. We had a Wraith performer who would say, I need you to stop Lieutenant Croy when he gets down the stairs. Yeah. And so I told the director eventually, I was like, I need you to see what's happening to me when I get to the bottom of the stairs. Yeah. And sure enough, she came and watched, and she pulled 4 people off of me. I got about 5 feet, because you're trying to get to the Saja, because that's how you accelerate the story forward. I don't need anybody to impair me. That's the Saja's job with their guests over there. So I get past this group of people. The director's pulling them off of me, and then I get over to this scooter. This poor old woman is sitting in the scooter, and this guy is pushing me into the scooter to the point where the scooter is falling
Jesus
over.
Christ. What is wrong with people?
And that all stemmed, and it wasn't that Wraith's fault, but it stemmed from him saying, stop, Croy.
Just the way that you interact with the guests, and that was something that
did they change it like I need you to stall him or something? Like,
see, we don't need that at all, because at that point in the story, and these are conversations that we're having backstage that nobody wanted to hear because people didn't know. So I was like, I'm not even going to tell you. I need you to come and see the way that people are
come watch my
interacting.
leg get broken here.
Yes,
like,
Jesus
and
Christ.
so that did
people
change.
Are so stupid.
That did well. It's also not their fault because they're doing something that hasn't been done before, and no one is instructing them on how to behave. So if you watch Westworld, where it's pretty much NC-17, you can do whatever you want. And then you get on the ship, you're like, this is kind of like the Disney G version of Westworld, but I kind of want to be more involved, but I don't know how to. So you've got people who are flipping you off or blaming you for the World Trade Center or coming up. I'm serious.
That's way too specific to be made up.
I'm
That's
serious.
Way too specific. I feel like that happened.
Did somebody say Croy did 9/11?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. That's not made up. Yeah. Like
Can that be the title of this episode? Croy did 9/11?
I don't think so, but
No, we'll definitely get blacklisted.
I'm not lying. I entered the bridge when Lieutenant Croy is taking over the bridge, and there's this girl waiting by the console who just has both birds extended, and she is holding them. She is making direct eye contact with me.
I don't feel bad for my second cruise anymore.
We met a Nazi.
Oh, we did.
We've
Yeah.
talked about that on the show. Yeah.
I don't feel like talking about that anymore.
No.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But like the pre-boarding message thing they had with like what's his name?
Croy did
Mark
9/11.
Daniels, I
Yes.
think.
I can believe that.
That showed you like here's the emergency siren, but it didn't show you here's how you interact with characters. Here's the line where you don't flip off Lieutenant Croy. They didn't
Ask for
show you
consent
that.
before you touch somebody,
Yeah.
because most touches are harmless. You're hugging somebody, you're patting them on the back. But when I'm trying to get down to Gaia's dinner show and Sammy's hiding Chewbacca in the turbo lift, people are grabbing me. They are physically impairing me from getting down those stairs. And I'm like, guys, I promise you, I'm not here looking for Chewbacca. I'm just trying to get to dinner.
I'm hungry. Okay, I want
On the last show, you should have just dropped a stunner on them, Stone Cold Stunner. Like, here's the double bird back. And just
That's another thing, and I'm sure we'll get to Galaxy's Edge, but I would talk to all the other guys, and I would say, no matter how you are treated by a guest, however you respond is going to be taken exponentially more seriously than whatever they did in the first place to instigate it.
Yeah, of course.
1,000%.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Whenever we do
So
get
how do
there,
you handle something like that? How do you handle someone?
My
flipping
hands
you
are
off?
always down. Like I had this little kid who was pummeling me on one ship. He was probably 10, 11 years old, and he was just going at me, and I just put my hands down because if I even raise my hands and inadvertently get one of his arms or something, that's your job. That's your livelihood. And so you have to protect the guests before you protect yourself. And the best thing you could do in those instances is try to get off stage, but sometimes you can't. As Lieutenant Croy, there's always at least 15 to 20 people surrounding you. So it's not easy in those instances.
and most of them are hostile towards you.
Yes.
Yeah. Jeez.
That's insane.
So that's the major
Now we
difference.
know that it's canon that he did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's he did not love it. And that specific cruise.
Yeah. So those are the bigger differences there, I would say, between Sajas and Croy. But
Saja's completely different. You could you could hide against the wall and nobody would approach you unless they want to tell you that I am one with the Force. Can you do the Force rock scene for me? That's pretty much
people came up and explicitly said that, right?
Yes.
Like, can you do Force rocks?
Yes. Can you do Force rocks for me? Can you take me to the climate simulator? I want to put my Force knowledge to the test. And you're like, okay,
come on.
Yeah.
All right, we
That's
know
too
you've
on the
done it
nose.
before.
Every cruise. But aside from that, if you wanted to, as a Saja,
that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to know a little bit about, because I initially wanted to go in blind my first time. I hate being that guy They're like, "Can we do the like?"
Can we do the thing?
So gross to me.
Well, you and I didn't.
I followed
Saja
Julie
Malam
'cause my
came
shit
up,
didn't
and we figured out. All I did was start talking to her.
Yep.
I just started talking to Saja Malam, and she just. I'm saying that right, Milan, right?
I think so.
Evan, Saja Malam.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, you don't know?
No, I think so.
Talking. Yeah, I'm not gonna say the performer's name. Just started talking, and because I was wearing the Kyber crystal, or was it you?
Me. Well, we both had
One of us were, and she was talking about us, and then the trooper just showed up. You know, kind of like, what's that crystal around your neck? Because that's what we were talking about. It was just so cool. Yeah, to your point, the more natural way of things is a little bit better. Instead of just showing up, be like, "Can I move rocks?"
Fun instead of being like,
yeah, that
The
too.
way
I do
we
that
got to
thing
do
I
that,
saw on YouTube, that I
especially for
wanna do.
$6,000.
the way we got to do the climate simulator moment was with Saja Dax, and he was our muster station leader. And after muster, he just started talking to me about the Force because I had like a Kyber with me and a holocron. I had a few Force stuff with me. And that's how it started. And like
You were loaded.
Yeah, as always. A couple hours later, he takes all three of us to the climate, and Taylor too, all of us to the climate simulator and performs the moment. Like, we didn't beg him for it to happen. We didn't see it coming. It just, he started it talking after muster, and it led to that.
Saja Fenn was there too, right?
Fenn was involved. Yeah,
Okay.
Dax led it, but I think, Fenn was
Okay.
like there.
It is a very human experience. You're not interacting with a Saja. You're interacting with that performer.
Yes.
And when you have that normal, rich, full conversation with him, he knows that he can trust you. And he knows that when he takes you down to the climate simulator, you're fully bought in. You're going to honor the script. You're going to honor the story. You're not going to make it about yourself, because it's not just about you. It's everybody else that's in the climate simulator who are experiencing it, because I'm sure Saja Dax probably involved everybody so that it's everybody's journey.
Yeah.
It's everybody's experience.
Yeah.
But you have to have trust with the person before you can lead them down there, because
That's it. Yeah.
otherwise it can be an abject disaster and can not only uninform you, the Saja, but the people around it. It can ruin the experience for so many people. So there has to be that mutual respect, and it's evident that he discovered that in you, and that's the dream of the scene.
Yeah. I mean, in that situation, the mutual respect, like you talked about, if he had talked to me after muster for like 30 minutes and kind of came away like, I don't think the mutual respect's there, he might have went to another guest and found it. You know, I'm sure that probably happened. But like with us, he saw it with us, and like I said, it naturally progressed that way. And we got lucky enough that I don't think there was anyone else in the simulator with us.
No, there wasn't. It was
But
just it was our group.
He did make it. He spoke to me the most, I feel like I can
Yeah,
say.
he
I'm
did.
not like being like a dick or anything.
No,
But
he
he
did.
did involve you and Taylor,
Yep.
like you two and Taylor. So he did what you're saying. He involved everybody.
It was your moment. I was cool being a spectator, because that was the great thing
It
about the
was our
Halcyon. If you
moment,
weren't
but-
involved, you could sit back and watch. You know.
Yeah.
Which is what I
Yeah.
like doing more anyway. I like to be involved very minimally. I like to see it from a distance.
Well, I eventually broke off and tried to mutiny with and get tossed in the brig. But that
I was having
happened,
fun
so-
just drinking Buffalo Trace.
Yes.
To be honest with you.
They
caused
sell that.
me-
They sold that in the lounge.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yep, they did.
They definitely. Well, we drank it in the lounge.
That's
I'll say
true.
that.
We
I'll
did
say
drink
that.
it in the lounge and in the cabin and plenty of other
And-
places.
The
and
atrium,
pretty
the
much
bridge.
everywhere else.
Pretty much everywhere.
Somehow in the parking lot
A few
again.
backstage
yeah.
areas.
Yeah. How do we get there again? I don't know.
So you've mentioned the Saja you've done, and of course Croa you've done, and we've hinted at like Agnon and Edge. But before we go to Edge, we'll bounce around, I'm sure. But was there like a third character that you, in a sense, character that you got to do that you can talk about? I don't want to push you anywhere that you shouldn't go.
I don't know if you know where you're leading me.
I think I do. At the second day Saja.
Oh no, that's not where I thought you were going.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
tell you something a little more interesting.
Ooh, okay, good.
That's what I'm talking about.
there was this character that was created in the event that a main character wasn't present. They had a flat tire, they were sick, and there was no one else to replace them. Something that we ran into multiple times. It happened to me where we didn't have a Croy on a day 2, and I had the costume as Agnon. So they said, Preston, you're going out as Croy. Do your best. And I had never done the character before. I'd never rehearsed the character before, and that had happened with other characters. That had happened with Sammy, Sandro to an extent, when we didn't have a Gaia performer had to step up and do some of Gaia's role. So there was this character created called Zayd, whose purpose was to be friends with these characters and to show up in the event that they weren't present
Oh,
and say,
shit.
I've been sent by Brad, you can trust me, here's how, and I'm going to lead you through this adventure, this journey.
Whoa, God.
And here's a cool snippet, because they never got a costume approved for us, and I learned how to be friends with Lenka and the captain, but there was one instance where we only had one Croy performer, but he didn't have a voice. So they introduced me as a Dark Saja. And so during
What?
Yeah. So during muster, I'm for the order, because I'm assuming that I'm going into his bridge at 7:15, and I'm going to have to lead the bridge for him because he didn't have the vocal power to do it that night. And as soon as everybody got caught wind of it in L.A. They put an end to it. But I was still on the bridge.
Damn.
I was
That
on the
would've been
bridge
so
with
cool.
Croy as his like assistant, as a Dark Saja.
So like you're saying when they got wind of it,
fucking cool.
like literally at
They're
that
like,
second,
you can't have a
you
Dark
were standing
Saja.
there on the bridge ready to do it.
Oh no, I was on the bridge with him,
And
and
you were
I
about
did
to
the
do it.
scene as a Dark First Order Pro
Oh
Saja.
my gosh, where's the
video
video of
any
this?
of this?
people?
Yeah.
If you were on that cruise, where is this video? Oh. I think in the past, in the millions of hours we've talked about Starcruiser, someone has said there should have been a Dark Saja. Like that.
I do recall somebody bringing that up.
Probably you. One of us. But
That's
like,
insane. That's awesome.
It's awesome that it happened, but I wish it was a constant.
I
thing.
had rehearsed a Dark Force Rocks, giving
What?
into your anger, to your
Oh.
passion,
I'm good.
and I never
Thank
found
you,
the
though.
right guest to try it.
Oh, that would have been me. Damn.
Sure, yeah,
Ah,
why
I'm
not?
okay for now.
You know,
damn, dude,
if
that is
Preston's doing it,
awesome.
I'll do it.
That is much cooler than what I
Peer
was asking
pressure.
you. But
No,
I think,
but that part's cool too, because I think I did 5 different Saja characters.
sir.
They each have letter designations to them, and one of them is the one that you're referring to, who disappears
Yeah.
around 7:30, never to be seen or heard from again. It was
I
always
wonder
my
why.
dream that at the end of Coaxium Deal Goes South, when Croy is yelling at the Saja who's confessed to taking the Coaxium at that part, but then it's a misunderstanding. What if instead of just that to be much ado about nothing, what if Croy arrested that Saja, took the Saja back onto the ship,
Oh, that'd be
and
cool.
then everyone's outraged, and then there's no wonder or lack of explanation as to where that Saja has just mysteriously disappeared to.
that'd be cool.
To be fair, I never thought about it until I got told. It's like I'm like, oh,
I still don't think I'm following. What Saja disappears?
There's a one that just
Hey.
shows up on day 2.
So we,
look at me. Second top row to the right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were
Yeah,
some
yeah.
cruises where we might have as many as 5 Saja. You've got your 3 Saja who are leading the lightsaber trainers. You've got that Saja.
Yeah.
And then you've got a 5th Saja if we
I'm
had over
so
300
dumb.
guests.
I never put that together.
See, I'm telling you,
You're
not a
not
lot
dumb.
of people realize
No,
it.
yeah,
but
you're not dumb.
there it
It's
is.
just-
But I'm with you, Preston.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was done so well,
Yeah.
you don't notice it unless you're dumb like me and you do notice that stuff.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Isn't that
Wow,
incredible?
that's a mind
Yeah.
blown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy
that.
shit!
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, I didn't
crazy.
mean to interrupt you. That
No,
just
not at
blew
all.
my mind.
I'm watching this eureka moment
yeah,
in
I
real
was
time.
like, huh?
I know, right? It's like
What?
Interesting.
He told us he was going to the loo.
How crazy is it though that something that's like 3 years old has something that a fan of it that likes
Mm-hmm.
it is just now discovering
Yeah.
something. Like that thing was
Dark
beautiful.
Saja thing is fucking
That too.
cool.
that's
beautiful.
yeah. I'm gonna be thinking about that one. Like, oh man, that's so
What
fucking
could have
cool.
been? That'd be something you could incorporate
Hey,
into the.
Could you
House of
imagine the
meetups.
Saja uniform in
I was
black
about to
and
say
red?
that. That could be a character,
Could be a
for one of
character for the
one of
House
our
of meetups.
events.
Yeah, shut up.
We had one director that put together a whole script for what if the First Order won.
Oh,
Hey, I remember somebody on Instagram saying, I'm not going to say who, and it wasn't me, but someone smarter than me saying, last voyage, the First Order should win. It was somebody with a beautiful beard, not my beard, so that's all I'm going to say.
Just saying. I mean, it would have
It
been
would have
fun.
been cool.
Yeah.
To get the actual
Next
like-
time.
Yeah. Well,
Next time.
Yeah.
right in the middle of the offices. The First Order's gonna take these offices
Yes,
over.
please.
Imagineering. Get out of here.
That'd be the coolest thing ever.
So I wanted to ask this. This might be backtracking a tad, but we're all right on time. You mentioned about like scenes and being like stopped by scenes and stuff. Did anything ever go like super haywire that you had to just pull out of your bantha backside?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As a Saja specifically, the first couple of months, we had a lot of issues where we would have to dump the pod and we would have to make up some kind of reason. But we didn't want people to walk away feeling unfulfilled because more times than not, there wasn't an opportunity for them to have another lightsaber training. So this was their experience.
Oh my
Whether it
God.
works or not,
Oh,
you've
boy.
got to make it worthwhile for them.
Okay.
So if it happens really, really early in the lightsaber training, you're teaching people Terras Kazi, you're having conversations, you're trying to learn names, you're trying to learn stories so that you can in some way pay this back to them later with heartfelt moments.
that's my favorite Easter egg on the whole ship, by the way. The
Yeah.
Terrace
And the same thing happened with Lieutenant Croy, where you're on the bridge sometimes and things just aren't working. Or I remember specifically, as Croy, you're waiting for a lot of cues backstage. And when things kind of get behind, you have to just make a judgment call in the moment. Like, I'm skipping this scene, I'm going over there, or I'm going to go into the scene and I'm going to do it differently because I have to get to the next thing. Because there's no time to sit back and like dilly-dally. Or you have to keep moving, especially on day 2. On day 2, there is not a second to breathe. It is just a marathon that is unrelenting, and it's just building and building. I call it the First Order pep rally day because
It is, yes.
it just, by the end of your engineering room or by the end of the last bridge fridge. You guys said you were there when Kylo announced his arrival. By that point, you've got excitement and passion pouring out of you. Whatever you've got left in your tank, it's exiting you at that point in the show. And so it is truly exhausting. But in those moments, if the video's not playing, you have to still meet that energy level for the guests because they deserve it. And you don't want them walking away feeling like they didn't get the experience that you got.
Right.
So you feel like as the performer, you have to make up for that shortcoming and give them that, I hate to say the number, but that $6,000 experience.
It's pressure, yeah. That's a lot of fucking pressure.
That's a lot of pressure, but like you guys pulled it off so well.
Oh,
Like,
1,000%.
I've told every guest that we've had from the Halcyon this story, and I'll say it again because I stand by it. I think the miracle that they did with the Halcyon was by day 2, right before you get the finale, you almost forget that there's other Star Wars characters in the universe that are bigger than these characters that you're with. Mm-hmm. Your entire experience isn't about Rey and Kylo. It's about the experience you're having on the ship.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool, the Rey and Kylo thing's cool. It
is cool.
It's a nice little bow on it.
Yep.
But they took, and this is not a knock at all, they took no-name characters and made them like these iconic,
New
meaningful
characters.
experiences.
New.
Characters that are in our top 10 Star Wars characters of all time. Like, we've done top 10s, like 2 or 3 since the ship came out, and they're in our top 10s.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Which is
Kuroi
crazy.
or Captain Keevan.
Like,
Keevan,
think about
yeah.
how impactful that is. You have 40 years of Star Wars storytelling, and then a thing that was an in-person experience that was around for a year and a half. Was it 2 years? Year and a half, 2 years?
Like 18 months, yeah.
Okay. Was that impactful?
Yeah.
I mean, that's gotta feel awesome.
I know we haven't transitioned yet to Galaxy's Edge, and we don't need to.
We're getting there. We got to talk about it.
As
now. We're
Croy, I was so often in Galaxy's Edge as Agnon, specifically that first year. I was pretty much there every day, and I would get called in to do Croy after I had already done Agnon. And
wild.
So I would have these incredible, relationships with these First Order supporters, and then the next day they would come to Galaxy's Edge. They would find me as Agnon, and you stay in character at all times, but they would say something along the lines of, "Thank you. You have no idea what that meant to I haven't had that much fun in so long for this reason, for that reason. You have no idea what we've overcome in the past 6 months. You have no idea the challenges that my family has faced." And in that moment, like, all of those cares, all of those worries washed away because of the experience that you and we shared. And that was the best, because otherwise Croy, gets carried off at the end of the show. You don't get to interact with guests after that. And they have no idea
always
that you're
hated
leaving.
that. Like, as one of the very few First Order supporters, I was always like, I can't say goodbye to Croy. I can say goodbye to everyone else. But
That Dark Saja would have given that opportunity. Maybe the Dark Saja would
that
have
would
hung
have
around.
been much
Next
better
time.
than just nothing. But
Because then at the end of the show, when they take Croy away, they're like, "Hey, we found the Dark Saja. He was in the cargo hold the whole time."
So there's a segue to Agnon, right? And you've a lot of me personally seeing you as Agnon constantly, and just having such a kick-ass time, and you're the only Agnon to compliment my bicep. So thank you.
You're welcome. Meant every word.
because this is an Agnon that works out constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's about those gains.
Yeah, clanging and banging in the First Order.
We need
ship.
those weapons in the First Order.
Yes.
That's right. Death Star 1 and 2 right here.
There it is.
You don't want to know what Star Killer Base is.
No Rebel Alliance is taking those down.
Blast show.
Yeah. So let's talk about Agnon. And so was that just like was that like kind of like a same time as Croy thing you were doing? You said you were doing that, but did you get that around the same time? It was like after the cruiser was kind of already kicked in.
So at that point, I was kind of like Super Saja, Super Sub, just plugging all the holes. And it was a very interesting process because I had done that workshop as a Saja, and then I came opening day and nobody knew who I was because everybody was gone. So for the 6 months of rehearsal, I was kind of just waiting in the wings watching.
Oh, wild.
But
Yeah.
the second that we opened, every time there was a plug to hole, it was Preston. Whether or not I knew how to do whatever it was, I stepped up. And there was one day specifically where, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. One of the CEOs of Disney or vice presidents below Bob Iger. What's his name?
Josh Tomorrow.
Josh
There you go.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
So he came on the ship, and they were like, "Preston, we don't have anybody who feels comfortable with Force rocks, or they're teaching lightsaber trainings. I know it's your lunch, but can you make this work?" And so I go there to Josh Tomorrow and his son, and everyone who's associated with our project is in that room. Everybody, every director, every executive.
And you threw the rocks at him.
And I just threw the rocks
As hard
right
as you
in his
could.
face.
Yes, that's how I knew I loved you. I knew it.
No, but I had them both in tears, and at that moment, the director, he pulled me aside, or they all pulled me aside and told me what a wonderful job I did. And I knew from that experience when he gave me the job as Agnon that he wanted something different. He didn't want this, this Hux character who hates everybody and looks down. He wanted an Agnon who creates real human connections with guests, who, even though you're playing this heightened, scary, fascist character, you do inherently want to give people a good experience. You want to offer kindness to people's children. You don't want to go out there and make people feel bad, feel stupid. And so that was a really fun aspect of Agnon, in that he was very similar to Croy, in that instead of looking down on people, you're trying to bring people in. You're trying to recruit people. You're trying to show people all the wonderful attributes about themselves and why it doesn't work with the Rebel Alliance or with the Resistance, why they're better than that, why there is a better opportunity, a better choice for them to move forward. And that was what was so interesting to the first concept of Agnon. Then you got a new director in there, and he had a whole different perspective. But the initial one was creating Agnon almost as like a friend to the common man who's almost trying to manipulate you into becoming a fascist.
I've always said, especially the way you did Agnon, I always kind of said it's kind of like a youth pastor Agnon. It's kind of how I saw it.
Youth pastor Agnon.
Righteous
Yeah.
Gemstones Agnon.
I just started that show. It is fucking awesome.
Yes.
Because it got to a point where I'm sure some friends of the pod, big Starcruiser fans, would bring their children, and I would use their children as my assistants. And so you'd have these adorable little kids, and I'd be like, what should we do with them? And they'd be like, lock him up, garbage compactor. And just seeing these kids who follow you around all day, just having this absolute astounding time. And it's like, even though you're the villain, that's what this is about. We're all here at this park to give families those positive experiences.
The First Order, bringing families together.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, just saying.
Maybe they are right.
Bringing a bunch of family men and women on to Elam, Starkiller Base, just to watch it blow up. Yeah.
Brought them together for their last moments.
Those planets deserved it.
Yeah.
Hosnium Prime and
Yeah.
Elam. Yeah. Poor Kyber Crystal, go bye-bye. All those Padawans.
I mean, I had countless awesome moments with you as Agnon. We never saw your Croy, but the one that I always bring up a lot is that Halcyon Legacy meetup. The first one we did, you went out of your way to come over as Agnon with your stormtroopers and become a part of our event. And I don't how did that come about?
I would always look around the courtyard and I would see who's lingering, not just the people in front, but the people in the back who are there watching to engage in the experience. And I would try to hit every single person that I saw in the courtyard, because you never know whether people are shy, whether they're afraid to engage. So you want to give them that opportunity to break out of their shell, to experience it, to do something they wouldn't otherwise feel comfortable doing. And so anytime I was doing a show, if I saw anyone in that courtyard, I would always go up to them and try to offer them the opportunity. Hey, do you want to play? And sometimes you get from people, they're not interested. And of course, you're gracious. I'm not going to force you to interact in my skit with me. But you do want to offer people the opportunity to see that if it can add to their experience, because at the end of the day, that's the job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's one of your favorite experiences as Agnon? What's one moment that you had where you're like, that was the shit?
All of it, honestly, but specifically, at the very outset, I would stay on stage and I would just kind of improv with the audience on microphone, and eventually they told me, we don't want you to do that anymore. We want it to be the Kylo Ren show, and if you're up on stage, it's kind of the Agnon show. And I was like, I get that, so I'm down interacting with people. But fast forward, and all of a sudden we've got all these lightsaber meetups happening every 3 months, and there's so many people in the courtyard that the stormtroopers feel unsafe going down there because they can't see. It's already dark, and then you've got no wiggle room, and so if they even lift their arms, they're going to hit somebody.
Ugh.
And so they're like, Preston, we want you to stay on stage. And I'm like, what am I supposed to say to 1,000 people holding Jedi lightsabers?
For 25 minutes while Kylo's walking around.
Exactly.
But the best part was that everybody there either knew me or they were just so supportive that they just laugh at every joke, they clap for you, they support you, even though they probably don't even want to see the show. They're like, can these guys get out of here so we can take this photo? Everybody just lifted you up, and you would see all these faces of people you had interacted with on the Halcyon or Galaxy's Edge before, and they just had these bright, beaming smiles like, I'm so glad it's you. I'm so glad it's you tonight. And
we were glistening, as I was often told.
Yeah, and that's that's the part, like, so much of what we do in this town can feel like it's not recognized because there's so many people practicing in each role. But that was a role that I did in Orlando where I was like, this is special, and you can see it in people, and you can hear it escape their lips, that this is special, and it does make a tangible impact. And it's not just the show, it's you. You are the one making an impact on these people.
Yep, it's 100%.
It's one of my favorite things to do in Galaxy's Edge outside of like studies and even building a droid, but just hanging on the first order outpost, talking to Agnon, talking to FNG4RY, Gary out there, and Kylo every now and again. So yeah, that's good shit.
Man, it's just so wild. Like the ride that must be such a crazy experience. Like I every time someone tells stories like that, I try to put myself in like in that situation, and like that would stress me the fuck out. All the script changes, all that shit would drive me crazy. I'm such a control freak. I could not imagine like how. We'll go back to that for a second. Was that like? Did that make you go like, I don't want to do this because there's not a vision? Or were you like, this is cool, I can kind of put my own spin on this?
One of my superpowers is that, and a lot of people kind of resented this about me, but I didn't know how else to do it, is I memorize lines very quickly. It's something that I'm very, very good at, very, very comfortable at. And even if I don't know the script 100%, I can get close enough in a ballpark setting. So when I went on for Croy with no rehearsal, no time to prep, I'd gotten like 4 hours of sleep. I did my remote job for 5 hours. We skipped the freeing of the droid scene because I was coming from work. So I got there right at 5 o'clock, which is basically when the First Order takes over the ship. Jesus. And there was no time to sit and look at lines.
My God.
So you're just out there and you're just doing your best to make it work. And that was something that I felt comfortable doing, even though it was the stressful part of it was not the lines. It was, and I said this to my director who was accompanying me, I was like, please, if anybody says I look different than the person they had yesterday, just stop them in their tracks. Just throw them down the garbage compactor. Just escort them into
down to a First Order officer.
Yeah. And I did have a guest who,
you don't look like the dude from yesterday, buddy. What the fuck?
It was really great. I got to a bridge scene, and there was this guy. His name was Derek, and I'll never forget this because I was so panicked at the time. And he was like, I love the new skincare routine you've adopted.
That's perfect. That's how you would have played it, I feel like, as a guest.
And the second that he said that, I was like, okay, I got this.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I think those folks understand.
See, for the most part, guests wanted the guests to succeed, but also the performers to succeed. But like, you also had the support of all the other performers.
Yeah,
and you talked about it already.
When you have a guest like that, or when you have a performer like that who's taking care of you, it makes all the difference when you feel like you're drowning out there.
Did you ever have any part where the story like completely fell apart, and you were like, well, I guess.
So
like anything where like the game broke.
I can share this story because I talked with her today. Angie was one of the first Saja. And through the first 6 months, we all kind of adopted one Saja. Vinny was C, I learned C, but there were different letters. And Angie learned A, but after about 2 or 3 months, she had to go into C for the first time. And so I was playing Saja B, I'm taking the coaxium downstairs, and I'm waiting for Ray and for Saja C to come and take the coaxium from me to move the show forward. Only they never come.
So how long did you stall before you realized they're not coming?
I had just had these rich, full scenes with Lenka and Jason where I'm making up all these stories about the crazy things that I've seen Wraith Cole do. And he's just eating it up. The Lenka performer is eating it up. So fast forward, I get downstairs and I'm waiting for Saja C and I'm waiting for Ray and they never come. And so the people are like, so tell us more about that story. Can you go into the details of where you met Wraith Cole, and what is this necklace, and what is the inspiration for what you're wearing right now? And I'm like, God, if this Saja does not come out here and rescue me right now. And so eventually there's this big meetup that I'm sure you guys are aware of at the bottom where Wraith is present, Sammy's present, Chewbacca's present, and I go in there. And I find the Sammy performer, and I'm like, you got to take this. And he's like, and he looks at me like as a person, like, no, I don't take that yet. I don't take that yet. And I was like, you've got to take this. And then Angie finally comes out, and she's got this big smile on her. She just had a great, holocron scene. And she's like, hey, Saja Grace. And I'm like, did you forget something?
So who eventually took over that scene?
I gave it to her at that point.
Okay, she did, okay.
Yeah, I was just like wandering around the ship, and everybody's like, why don't you take the coaxium to the captain? Why don't you take it to Lincoln? You're coming up with 1,000 reasons why you can't,
That's
just end the show at that moment.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Man.
I want to make sure we get these questions in, so you mind if I kick those off?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
From our listeners and people across the social medias. So let's kick it off with, I have no particular order here, Jay. Jay wants to know, how did the workshop process for the Starcruiser go in comparison to non-immersive productions?
Okay, so our director who came in, and again, the two directors who were associated at the beginning, they kind of faded away from the project, and actually 3 of them kind of faded away from the project. So we had a new director come in who was managing like 100 different talent and rewriting scripts and trying to navigate changes and everything. So a lot of it was self-navigated. There were weeks where we didn't have anyone observing us, helping us. They might give you a script and say, look at this week, but the only Saja who's going to be performing this week is Evan. And so the other 17 Saja are like, well, what are we supposed to do all week? Just sit around? So that's what a lot of the process was. So by the time we opened, there was so much disorganization and chaos that by the time we opened, I went into this one Saja character that I'd never rehearsed, even though I was there for 6 months. And I was sitting with one of the Saja trainers, and I was like, I need you to walk me through how I do this fight with Wraith Cole and this Stormtrooper. And she's like, what do you mean walk you through it? And I was like, I never learned it. She was like, Preston, you were in rehearsal for 6 months. And I was like, I know.
That's the crazy part. I didn't do it.
And we do the disappearing holocron trick as a Saja, and I'm like, I need you to show me that too. And she's like, why did you take the shift? And I was like, there's nobody else available.
Oh my
and
God.
that's kind of what it was the first couple of months. Even though we had this very rich, long rehearsal process, by the end of it, we were still wildly underprepared.
That's not stressful at all.
Fucking
No.
insane.
That's not
to
stressful
me.
at all. No, not at all.
That's one scene that I
Holy
can't
shit.
find any good footage of, but B, can't truly figure out all of it. I can figure out like the folding holocron. but
It's
I
just
can't-
the Force, dude. You
well,
can't explain
it's the
it.
Force,
It's-
but I can't figure out.
it lives
Gray's
all around
part,
us.
But yeah, it's the Force. I'm not
gotta
going to
be like-
ask you here. I don't want you to.
It's got to be
tell
like
us.
the reverse of it, right? Like,
Well, where does Ray pull it out of? I don't know.
yeah.
Because like the
You
one
don't
that
wanna know.
the Saja has like folds. You can tell like it folds.
I
but-
almost talked the director into getting Ray to lead a lightsaber training.
Oh,
It was
man.
after the conclusion of the show. One group had their pod dumped, so they didn't get the experience. So they're like, we're going to give them one extra lightsaber training.
That would have been the best
And I was
guest
like,
recovery of all time. Like,
Ray is here. She's on the ship. Why not let her do it? So that close.
Oh my god.
probably the same
what was
thing.
what was the reasoning not?
Probably the same as like the dark
Because she had
Saja.
exited. She had gotten back on the Falcon at that
Yeah,
point.
remember we watched her jump into hyperspace
Oh, that's right.
on the Falcon. I mean, she could have easily come back, but
Yeah.
anyway.
I forgot something.
Yeah,
I forgot my wallet.
I forgot my students.
I forgot my high tea here. Aaron wants to know, what's the dumbest thing you've ever heard a guest say?
Well, we might have already covered that, but
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. There was a lot of Scroy.
You don't look like the dude from yesterday. No shit.
that actually
think?
that part ties into a question I have, so that's funny.
I can't remember what this guy said, but
He's like Brad said.
I used to. There was a lot of this kind of energy. I would always have to work out before Croy because I knew that everybody, if they're able to make you look small, it's like blood in the water. So anytime somebody steps up to you, you gotta put them down, and you gotta put them down hard. Otherwise, everybody else in the ship is gonna see weakness in you,
That's
and
true.
so you can't let them have that. So there was this big guy who's probably 6'5" on the bridge, big bulky dude, and he's like, "You're small," and I was like, "Thank you for the compliment. I am
Jesus.
proportionately sized." And he's like, "No, you're really small," and
says
he
that?
just kept saying it, and eventually, like I spouted back, like what I lack in size, I make up for in passion and courage or something. Anyway, but I like got into his face, and I had to shout him to put him down. And eventually, he was so impressed with whatever my retort was that he finally shut up. But we had
Your
comments like
mother
that
had no
all the
complaints last
time.
night.
That's insane to me. A grown man would say that to another grown man.
It's
They
that
don't know
alpha
how to
energy.
interact. They want to get your attention. They want to be part of the scene. They're
Yeah.
pro-resistance, so they're like, "This is my opportunity." One of the
They're
other
just too into it. I think it's like
Maybe, yeah.
One of the other Croys called it part of the ride. Like you look at your itinerary for Halcyon Journey, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have dinner. Okay, I'm gonna do a bridge scene. I'm gonna do lightsaber training. I'm gonna yell in Croy's face.
talk some shit to Croy.
Talk-
7:45. Yell at Lieutenant Croy.
Yell at
Got it.
Lieutenant Croy about the money he owes me for
7:45
painting his
to
fence.
7:53. Scream at another human.
Passion and purpose. That's what I said. What I lack in size, I make up for in passion and purpose.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That is great.
Rachel wants to know, my question.
Shut
can
up,
you,
Rachel.
Whoa.
I don't know
Can,
Rachel's.
yes, you do.
I'm kidding.
Can you tell us if your time on the Starcruiser as Saja Grace influenced you, how you interacted with guests on Batu as Agnon?
Absolutely.
I'm assuming he did Agnon before Starcruiser, but I'm not entirely sure. So, well, we found that out already. So.
No, I definitely did Starcruiser first, and I was a Jedi before I was a Saja. So, but also just as a Star Wars fan and as a human and as a father, I would never approach Croy or Agnon to be antagonistic to guests, and even to other performers. I never want anyone to feel small or to look down upon. You want everybody to feel like they are the hero of their own story. But yes, I do think that there's a lot of being a Saja that forces you to look into people's souls when you interact with them, because as a Saja, when you're in those climate simulator moments, people are revealing their deep, dark truths to you that they've been holding in for some time, and sometimes they're saying it out loud for the first time in front of their family, in front of their friends. And so you have to carry that with you. When you're Agnon, you see people from a different angle, but you still see that same humanity behind their eyes. And so that does dictate how you're going to speak to people and how to cleverly interact with them, let them know that the resistance is wrong, but that's not your fault.
That's right. And I've had a Saja do that to me when I was I wasn't as bad. I wasn't anywhere near what people you're talking about, like giving it to Croy. But I was just, every time Croy was there, I'm just like, I'm down with the First Order. I was trying to get thrown in the brig, but, and then Saja Fenn.
Respectfully, though. He wasn't
respectfully, yes. I didn't say anything physical about the Croy, or I didn't go there, like, you're small or anything. I didn't say, like, you this. That was stupid. But then towards the end, like, after the finale, Saja Fenn had, like, she wasn't like talking down to me, but just like, hey, like Croy's a human, and like everything to your point. And I was just like, nah, you're absolutely right. Thanks a lot, Saja Fenn. I'm gonna leave now. I feel like a dick. No, I'm kidding.
But it's not your fault, because again, one of like the biggest regrets that I have from that experience, and it's something that they cleaned up towards the end, not only in the way that they interacted with guests and communicated with guests at the outset of the performance, but also that last 6 months that we sold out was almost like a celebration of all the people who love the Halcyon. And one of my biggest regrets is we had some new cast come in at that time, and they got to enjoy a lot of that, while some of the old guard kind of got pushed to the wayside. So we didn't get to see that tangible, that love, that appreciation, that support from guests who not only see Croy as a person, but almost as a hero, because this experience has meant so much to them that everybody on board is almost like family to them, and that's the way that they interact with you over those last 6 months, which was such a stark contrast to the first 6 months.
Did you get to work the very last cruise?
I got to work, it was either the second to last cruise or the third to last cruise, and I also got to be a Saja, I think like a week before we closed, and that experience was night and day different than everything I had Before that, I hadn't been on the ship since May.
Wow.
And that was before the announcement that we were closing. Yeah. So once they announced that we were closing, the energy on the ship was just completely different, and I didn't get to experience that until the last week when I finally got to do a Saja and a Croy cruise.
See, that's so funny. I would have assumed that the energy on the ship would have been kind of ho-hum. Like, I know the guests were excited. I mean, like, but also sad, right? Because, like, they're getting to do this.
Oh, yeah. Like, everybody was crying.
But I would have
It was more of a celebration, though. Like, I'm glad I went, because like, I was extremely sad, but I also got to celebrate it for 2 days.
It's hard because, a lot of people are losing their jobs.
Yeah.
That was...
But you kind of forget about all that when you go on stage and you see people's eyes light up when they're like, I'm so glad it's you. Or even if they don't know that it's you, after a couple of hours, they're like, I didn't know you at first, but now that I do, I'm so glad it's you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Megan, go ahead.
You were on the second to last one, because sadly we didn't, not sadly, and like I didn't like our Croy, but you weren't on the third to last cruise. Because I was on the third to last cruise. So sadly I didn't get to see you as Croy. So
then
second to last, though.
It's probably second to last.
That's
then.
pretty sick.
I'm going to tell Sage you said that.
No, I love Sage. Come on. We all know that.
Sage and I had a crazy story in that when I went on as Croy without any rehearsal, we got to rehearsal 2 days later to learn Croy, and they kind of looked at us and they were like, so we don't have a Croy tomorrow. Which one of you feels comfortable going in? And so we ran the scenes, and he looked at me and he was like, you know this, dude. It's got to be you. And I was like, okay, I can do one, maybe two more, and then I need a break. I had a newborn at home at the time. Teddy was like probably 4 weeks old at the time, 5 weeks old.
Oh, that
and
hurts,
Sage, to his credit, was like, okay, I can do it. Just give me like 4 or 5 days. And so I had no experience with the role, but I was the only one available. So I was his trainer, following him around the ship, trying to the best of my knowledge to help him. Wow. And to his credit, he was absolutely sensational.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's spectacular.
What else you got?
Megan wants to know, did Lieutenant Agnon have a canon first name? Canagnon.
No.
Oh man.
No, he didn't.
What should it be? If you could, what would his name be?
Oh, I prefer for everybody to have their own answer.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that too.
What's in the briefcase?
Rutherford.
Yeah, Rutherford.
Lieutenant Rutherford Agnon.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Milford.
Anonymous asked, why is the First Order a flat organization with an excessive amount of lieutenants?
It's a fair question. It's a lot of lieutenants.
If you go on Rise of the Resistance, all of
So
those
many
cast members
lieutenants.
are lieutenants.
That's true.
I was always quick to correct people that he's first lieutenant of the armed forces of the
okay.
First Order, so technically outranks Croy.
He's the assistant to the lieutenant.
Nice.
Yeah, this guy on Reddit, G-Ham Plays, says, oh shit, I used to work with Preston at Jedi Training Trials of the Temple. Good guy. I voted for you, don't worry. Patrick asked,
You
can't
don't
wait.
want to see the comment underneath it.
No, that had to be blurred.
That guy was a dick to me.
Yeah, he showed me his dick. My question is,
I joke at relax.
I can't wait for this one. My question is from Patrick. In his opinion, Preston's opinion, what's keeping this is a good one. What's keeping immersive entertainment down, and what spark or problem solved does the field need to make it the norm as opposed to niche?
Somebody with deep pockets and a way to the
Man,
biggest.
if only Disney had money.
I know, but the biggest problem with Disney was not the budget. It was explaining to the general populace what the product was.
Yep.
I cannot tell you
Those
as
commercials were
Agnon
ass.
how many times when we would have Halcyon guests come over and I would address it, make an announcement about it, how many people would say, what's the Halcyon? What's the Galactic Starcruiser? And I was like, you are literally a couple of 100 feet away from this building, and you're obviously somebody who frequents Disney all the time. This is your market, and they don't know what you're selling.
Disney, bad marketing.
That whole marketing campaign was like, I don't know if like some intern was running it.
Or did they want it to
Or
fail?
just-
If you want to go conspiracy theory on it, like,
Oh,
I
we
don't
could
know.
talk conspiracy.
Yeah,
I don't think they wanted it to fail. I don't think they
No,
ever.
I don't think
intended
they wanted to
lose
fail
money.
either.
Like you would just not do it if you were gonna, willingly, you just cut your losses and just not.
But
obey
they've
that.
got that tax write-off if they didn't.
I don't think they ever got the tax write-off. They never
Doesn't
demolished
seem-
that
They
building.
didn't demolish
I
the
don't know.
building, so they're not
true.
getting that tax write-off. They're just.
I don't care to look into taxes, but you
pay
already Stacy and Andrew
Not smart enough.
they call themselves the nicest people in the galaxy. Just gave you a shout out on Reddit. You already answered their question, but I just wanted to make sure I called out that they loved you as Croy. So
Thank you. I love them.
and that's as far as I have with questions go, Evan. So I know you have a few.
I have one more from
Oh.
our buddy Will Clark.
All right.
And
Shout out
it
to
kind of
Will.
touches on that whole like new performer kind of thing. So Will Clark says his family got to experience you as Lieutenant Croy on day one of their first cruise, and they dubbed the second actor New Lieutenant Croy. That's amazing. I love that. After that, they always kept an eye out for Preston as Lieutenant Agnon in the park. Will wants to know, how did you approach guest interactions differently on the Starcruiser than you did in Galaxy's Edge? Did you have a preference for one? Everybody on the Starcruiser has literally bought into the play concept, whereas in Galaxy's Edge, guests may or may not be more or less passing through. Thanks for all the great performances.
Good question.
I
Will.
want to point out we saw people not playing on the
Yeah,
Starcruiser.
that
so
happened
it's not
too.
everybody is not
Yeah.
balled in, and I'm sure obviously you know that better than anyone in this room.
Yeah,
But
shut up, Brad.
Sorry. All right, I'll be quiet.
So on the
I'll go back to sipping
Starcruiser,
whiskey.
Yeah, there you go.
It's what I do best.
on the Starcruiser as Croy, I was a little more defensive because everybody's coming at you. They're coming to you. They've got their story. They've got what they want to say to you, and sometimes it can be antagonistic. Whereas Agnon, nobody knows who you are. They don't know what you're doing there. So when you show up, it's a pleasant surprise. And when you go down and you start interacting with people, they're like, I had no idea this was going to be part of my experience. This is rich and fun. Whereas Croy, there's just a different interaction there. There's an expectation from the guests that they not only get to talk to you, but they get to say whatever they want.
Yeah.
People don't have that energy in Galaxy's Edge. I don't want to use the word in entitlement, but there's more... In Galaxy's Edge, there's more like an excitement of, I can't believe I got to experience
like,
this moment.
This is happening versus I expect this to happen.
This is going to happen.
Oh, that's
Where
a-
at Galaxy's Edge, this got to happen.
And back
that's
in
a
those
good
days,
way to look at it.
the phosphor wasn't even on the app. So no one knew it happened. It's
The
on
what?
the app now. You can the Kylo show on the Echelon.
Yeah, but
it's called what?
Phosphor, First Order Search for the Resistance.
Holy shit! Is that like a
Phosphor.
backstage thing?
Well, that's like its official title.
Oh,
But, like
I
the
haven't-
acronym is Phosphor.
Phosphor.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
Yeah. But so like back then, no one knew it happened. But now they can be like, oh, 5:30 phosphor. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, but back then it was.
But even then, they don't know what to expect. So
True.
when you walk off the stage and you walk right up to Brad and you're like, "Thank goodness you're here. I could use someone of your skill set." Like they're like, "Oh my god, I had no idea this was going to be a part of my experience today."
Yeah, you don't expect someone
That's
to come
cool.
off of a stage and talk to you. That's a great point.
Because you think about it, people are going to Disney World. They could be they're probably seeing studios for the first time. They're seeing Batu for the first time because there's still people. It's 5 years old. There's still people seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that way for a long time.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be that way for a long time.
Yeah. We didn't get to ask it, but like you mentioned, you were a big Star Wars fan before this even. So, like, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Andor.
You stole this from
Andor. Andor is.
I know. I laugh at it too.
I'm laughing at you because he said Andor. Andor
Nice
is
try.
I have rewatched that series
The goat.
probably 4 times.
Damn.
I can't get enough
Yeah.
of it. It's
I'm sorry.
it's beautiful storytelling. But in terms of the movies, and this is pretty funny. Obviously, I haven't seen these movies in years. But the first Star Wars movies that I actually watched were the Ewok movies, The Caravan of Courage and the Battle of Endor.
that's
were
cool.
And I watched Battle of Endor probably like at that point in my age, like 30, 40, 50 times.
I've never
pretty
met
much-
anyone
He's the one.
who's that's
their
first
intro.
intro to Star
That was
Wars.
my intro,
And you
and
stuck through it. Jesus Christ.
and I loved it.
That's
I
crazy.
loved it.
That's a very cool. That's very.
Well,
unique.
he's like, this is the bar low here, so like it can only go up, and it does go up.
I'm afraid
so.
to go back and watch it because I do have such
Oh,
a rich
dude.
memory of Battle of Endor.
Yeah.
You might be okay though if you watched it as a kid and loved it that much.
Yeah.
Your nostalgia will just
Like we watch
cover it
the
all
Life
up.
Day special every year. At least Taylor and I do,
I
and like
don't.
we barely get through it.
I
But it's
can't.
the same idea. It's like
we
how
have
do
to
we do
watch
this?
it, do commentary, and drink during it next
Yes.
and this upcoming Christmas.
Let's
Yes. That'd be crazy.
do it.
Well, we were messaging earlier about how much you love Andor, so I knew that was going to come
Andor.
up.
I can't
so.
get enough of Andor,
Me
and so
neither.
much of my lines of Croy and Agnon I would steal from those
Yeah.
imperial like Senate hearings or whatever.
Fuck
Some
yeah.
of the rich language that they used in those meetings, I was like stealing that.
So you
stealing
almost
that.
had to go get those headphones to torture people on the Halcyon. that
Oh,
Oh,
played
they
the
they
streams
deserved
of-
it. They
yeah.
all deserved it.
Yes, totally.
What's your favorite like actual mainline movie?
Mainline movie?
Yeah, like 1 through 9 plus
I mean,
Solo and Rogue One.
what I grew up on was Return of the Jedi. That was the most recent movie when I grew up, and that moment is so iconic. When your sister, if you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will. No.
Yeah.
I mean, that got a surge out of me as a kid, and
I
it
used to
still
watch
does.
that scene over and over and over again.
That's probably the best saber fight of all time.
It's amazing.
Like it's
He gets so angry at the end.
yeah, he goes almost full dark side.
I love
Like,
it.
And
He
even
looks
as a
down-
kid, like I
he
was
looks down at his the dark glove on his hand and like closes it and then throws the lightsaber away.
Yep.
Dude, fucking love. Oh, it's the best.
even as a kid, I remember
Spoiler.
thinking like,
spoiler alert for Return of the Jedi.
what if you didn't grow up with parents and then you meet your father and he is just beating you
He cuts your arm
mercilessly and all you want is just to have a normal human conversation with him and you can't.
when you put it in that context, it's funny.
Tragic.
Like in a bad
Funny?
way, it's funny. Like,
That's very funny. That's a very funny.
I need therapy now. Thinking of it that way.
not if it was real. Like I'm just saying, in that context,
I
it's
know,
as
I
silly
know.
as can be. But if it was a real life person, that's terrible. Like
It's like Omni-Man without the 18 years of being Mark's father.
Yep.
yeah.
Well, things next for you are epic, and obviously you're doing some pirate theater. Anything else on the horizon as we kind of wrap things up today?
Yeah,
tonight?
I do remote game show hosting for a company called Weave or Go Remote. So
Oh.
it's pretty expensive, but if anybody like has a remote company wants to organize, a big group of like 25 people for some game shows, some Jeopardy, some murder mysteries, some escape rooms. I still dabble in that. I've been doing that for about 5 years, but mostly it'll be
cool.
Epic Universe and Pirate Dinner Theater.
We can't wait.
Nice. That'll be
And thank you so much for joining Jedi Talk, man.
Yeah,
This
thanks.
is so fucking cool. I love
Anything
going
for
through
you
this
guys.
shit.
And before we sign off, the only reason I agreed to do this is because you are such good guys. And when I was at a low point, you were 3 guys that extended a helping hand when you didn't have to. And I cannot speak about what that meant to me, what that meant to my family. Having the 3 of you show up, be so gracious, give me that opportunity. I can't say thank you enough. You're not just great podcast hosts. You're really, really great people. And I just wanted the opportunity to come here just to thank you all in person.
Of course, man.
That means a lot, man.
yeah,
That
it's our
means a
honor.
lot.
But
I
it's- yeah,
appreciate
we
that.
did have to do it.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have to do it.
I'm clipping this and making sure everybody hears it, even our naysayers. Thank you, Preston.
That
I
means
mean,
a lot.
that's one hell of a way to end it. So, that's one hell of a way to end it, Brad.
You heard it from here. We're awesome. So fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to the episode. We'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. May the force be with you.
Always entabuite.
Rise, Jedi Knight.